Great, great, great. So happy Saturday, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our second webinar on Black Food Entrepreneurship. So for those who know me and for those who don't, my name is Ariel Smith. I am the executive producer and host of the Food Truck Scholar podcast. So make sure you are subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. I would appreciate that. And I'm so excited to bring to you this webinar on mastering menu creation and online delivery. I'm pretty sure for many of us, that is something that we're very much interested in, especially now during COVID-19, where there's a lot of social distancing and online delivery has gone up a whole lot. So I thought it would be great if I had people from different aspects of the food and beverage industry to sit down and talk to you all about how they're navigating this process. So first of all, I want to say thank you to each of you for being on the panel. It is a Saturday, it is summertime. Even though it's COVID, it's summertime nonetheless. So thank you to each of you for being here. I really do appreciate that. Just for the attendees, we will have a Q&A session near the end. We will reserve 10 minutes for that. But by all means, please, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat box as we go along. That way we see them. We can also ask those questions as well. We do want this to be as interactive and as engaging as you would like. I also encourage you to follow each of them on their platforms. Make sure that you support them. We're actually going to share with you what each of them is working on currently near the end of this webinar. So by all means, make sure you have that. Also, we will be casting this right now on Facebook Live as well. So if you have friends and they didn't register yet, it's okay. They can also check it out on Facebook at the Food Truck Scholars Facebook page. And then for those who missed the session right now, we will also send it out in a couple of days for you to access as well. We do want to make sure that you have the ability to replay this and glean from this information as much as possible. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce these people because these people are smarter than I am when it comes to these topics. So you always put yourself in a room with people who are smarter than you. So first, I want to introduce Miss Trevicia Agee. Hey, girl. How you doing? Good to see you. So Trevicia, affectionately known as VC, has been baking in some form of fashion for 27 years since childhood, constantly perfecting her craft. In 2019, she launched her business, Let Them Eat Cake, and she has not only launched it in 2019, but get this, y'all. Not only has she done that, but she quickly amassed a customer base in 2 states, Florida and Alabama, primarily in Tampa, Florida, Birmingham, Alabama, and Mobile, Alabama. Now, VC can bake you just about anything under the sun. However, some of her customer favorites include red velvet cake, especially those cupcakes. I've had them. They are magical. Pound cakes of all different flavors. I think I remember it was like a strawberry Moscato pound cake that you made the other day. And I want that too, as well as peach cobbler. So welcome, VC.
Thanks for having me.
Next, we got Chef Stephen Mcintyre. Welcome, Stephen. So good to see you.
Thank you.
Yes. We've been on Twitter for a lot, so it's good to finally see you. He's a member of the Birmingham chapter of the American Culinary Federation, and in January of 2019, was honored with the inaugural Travis Remington Scholarship. Chef Mcintyre has competed nationally at ACF conventions, and in 2019 became an ACF certified culinarian. Throughout his 7-year career, Chef Mcintyre has worked in various hospitality roles at award-winning restaurants and hotels, in addition to being a private chef. However, he found his true passion in teaching, leading to his current role as the Housing Department Birmingham District Culinary Art Program instructor. Welcome, Chef Stephen. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And last but certainly not least, is a familiar face to the Food Truck Scholar podcast, is Derrick Kirk. Now, if you know Soul Foodie, that name is familiar. Derrick Kirk is a restaurant branding and marketing executive with 20 years of experience leveraging consumer insights, analytics, and technology to drive incremental revenue using menu and product strategy, coupled with innovative customer engagement. In 2016, Derrick started Soul Foodie. Soul Foodie is a community that celebrates Black food and beverage culture. Soul Foodie is a platform that highlights the stories and showcases the talents of individuals innovating and creating in the world of food and beverage. Soul Foodie has also done an amazing job as serving as a Black food media outlet to recognize the talent that often goes underlooked. But as we talked about in the Food Truck Scholar podcast, there is some work being done to that. And I want to thank the work that Soul Foodie has done in making that contribution. So Derrick, welcome back and welcome to this webinar.
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And finally, we have Joshua Sharp representing Eat Okra. So Joshua, it's so good to have you. Thanks for being here. Here, come on back. So Joshua will be manning the Q&A part of the panel. So if you have any questions, please make sure that you are asking them in the chat. We would love to have you. Stephen Duran, yes, we would love to connect with each of you. We'll be dropping our contact information in the chat box, so that by all means, definitely connect with us. We would love to do that. So now that we've gotten all the formalities out of the way, let's jump right into it. So first, we're going to talk about menu creation. So each of you in some form or fashion has had experience with that. You have worked with consulting individuals on that. You've personally gone through it. So let's talk about it. One of the biggest challenges, though, is I see a lot of people, especially food truck owners, but I've also seen it with restaurateurs, ask, should I have a really big menu where I'm cooking everything that I know how to cook? Or do I make a very small targeted menu where I'm only doing like a select few things, maybe no more than 5 to 7. So what has been your thoughts on it? Have you been a person that probably started out with a big menu and found yourselves having to condense? What has been your experience with that? What has been your advice on that? And anyone can jump in.
All right, I'll start. I would say during these challenging times right now, it is imperative from a profitability standpoint to prune your menu. As I look around the marketplace and talk to different restaurant owners, I tell them you gotta cut the fat out of your menu. And there's really 3 reasons that most restaurants have too many items on the menu. I think first is their emotional reasons. Chefs and restaurant owners get attached to a particular menu item and refuse to take it off their menu for whatever reason. And sometimes they're legitimate. The other thing you see is I term menu creep. So a restaurant will come up with a special, it does very well, and it graduates to the base menu, the core menu. And then you put another special up there and it graduates because it does well. And then you look at your menu 2 years later and you got 25, 50% more items on the menu and you don't understand where it's come from. And the last one is there's a fear among a lot of restaurant owners is that if they cut items out of the menu, they're going to lose sales. And it's really a very simple process. If you go through and just rank everything on your menu, from top to bottom by sales, I guarantee you, in most cases, you can cut 25% to 1/3 of those items off of your menu. So it is imperative right now. And I'll give you one example I read about a couple of weeks ago. Red Robin last month cut 55 items off of their menu.
Wow.
Yeah. And they saw no measurable drop in sales. They saw significant improvement in speed of service and profitability. Profitability because they're carrying fewer SKUs, so there's less of a chance of spoilage and things going out of date. And the other thing, they did not need as many people in the back of the house to maintain that menu, but they saw their speed of service increase, and they made a decision a couple of weeks ago. It's a permanent. It was a temporary change for COVID, but they've made a decision now to make that permanent. And I've seen in the trades that Taco Bell and McDonald's are doing the same things. So yeah, right now you need to be as lean and as mean as possible to drive profitability on your P&L.
Awesome. Thank you for that. VC, I saw you about to jump in. Jump in.
It's difficult baking. You not gonna be able to satisfy everybody. You're gonna have those that want chocolate covered strawberries, a pound cake, and cake pops. So as far as me, and I'm the only one baking, I can't provide all of that. So I have to scale back on what all I'm going to offer because it's just me. And then COVID comes in, and now you're like, okay, so I really have to sit back and say what's really going to work for me with COVID, because now I have to revamp everything because I'm baking. So we got to go back to the drawing board completely. When it comes to creating your menu, you really have to sit down and think about what's going to be best for you if you're doing the work, because let's be real about it. The work's got to be done. So if you've got a team, that's something totally different. But even with the team, you don't want to burn them out. So small may come across as it's not enough, but it's what works best. Baking is a lot. Most people don't get it, but you want a cake for a birthday party, that's baking and decorating. So that's a lot. I can't offer 18 different flavors of a cake, plus pies, plus ice cream, plus chocolate covered strawberries, and it's just me. So just like Derrick said, you have to cut the fat off. So I'm not going to satisfy everybody, but I can refer you to somebody that's going to do that because you can't get it from me.
Steven, what's up?
So I have always been a person wary of restaurants that have a really large menu, because from the restaurant standpoint, I just know there's no possible way you have all these ingredients fresh right now. And then on top of that, I'm the kind of person that likes to venture around the menu. So if you have a dish that's not being made every day or even every other day, now you're scrambling around saying, oh, how do we make this? Do we have the ingredients to make this? Oh, can we make this right? And you end up with a product that's not of good quality. So even on top of that, as was mentioned before, if you have a team, you don't want to burn them out. I've been places where it was just me and one other person. We had a very expansive menu, and in order for us to get everything ready for a time to open, the stars had to align basically. And you don't want to burn out your team. You want to make sure that prep is simple enough. So even if you have an employee that doesn't have a super high skill level, they're able to jump in and help out with that prep, get everything done. And a lot of people, they say they love having options, but really people like having options to a certain degree. They don't like having too many options. If you look at restaurants, that sell just wings, that's their bread and butter. They're selling wings, but their creativity comes from all the sauce flavors that can come about it. So the perfect menu to me comes from your creativity as the restaurateur plus their comfort. So using the wing example, if I'm using wings all over the place, everybody eats wings. It's comfortable. But if I can make a special sauce that's going to draw you in, that's how you latch on to people. You can have only 2 things on your menu, but you're going to have a very profitable restaurant by following that example.
And I want to drive home something that each of you touched on in a different form of fashion is also quality. Mm-hmm. A lot of people make the assumption that if I show you that I can cook all of these things and that I can prepare all of these things, that's going to be part of the value. But it goes away. And I've been in many restaurants where they had this expansive menu and I ordered something from it and it took forever for them to prepare. It was something that was not always a popular item. So they had the popular items ready to go and prepped. But because I asked for something that was on their menu that they have not prepped, it took a whole lot longer to make. And another issue is cost. So because you have all of these items on your menu, you are driving up the cost, which is what Derrick was talking about. So now you have this waste. So what happens when you have all of these items on your menu? You got all of this food, all of these products. If it's not used during that day and no one orders it, you wasted money. So it's best for you to have a target focus. This kind of reminds me of my research. They tell us that you can't study everything. What makes you a scholar in the sense is that you knowing what you know best and you do that. So in this situation, pick what's the most cost effective that you do well. That is a key. So the next question I would say will build into that. Some people, they go off of the things that they like, that they personally like. Well, I like mac and cheese, or I like this, and I like that, or I like this type of pound cake. But they may not necessarily have done the research, if you will, to figure out is that's what their customers actually like. So have you all experienced that? And what would you tell someone who is, they're jumping into business and they're building their menu based off of what they personally like, or maybe the items that their family seems to have liked?
It can work, and then again, it may not. It's all off in knowing your target audience, your target customer. Red velvet cake sells in the South. Red velvet cake may not sell in New York. It's a Southern thing. So I knew that red velvet cake would do great here, but if I decide to open a bakery in New York, red velvet cake may not be a signature item that's gonna skyrocket in New York, because that's not something that they're really used to. Peach cobbler is not something that they really do up there. So that's why I tell everybody, Trevisia's specialty is Southern desserts, because that's what I grew up on. That's what I know is Southern desserts, because that's what I got from my grandmother and my mama and my aunts. But if I go somewhere else, I have to rethink what I'm doing, because what are they used to? What do they know? It probably won't work. So you have to know your target market. You have to know what your customers like. If you don't know the people that you're trying to reel in, it's a flop. I can say, well, because I like eating cheesecake, then cheesecake gonna sell. Cheesecake will sell in New York. That's Junior's is doing real good, right? But cheesecake might not be a hit in Alabama, because Alabama is what we say country, and we want Southern stuff. They want pecans on everything, and let's be real, I have to give these people these pecans, whether they're gonna cost me $8 a bag or not, because that's what they're gonna pay for. And it works for me. So you have to do your research and understand your target customer. Like, you really have to think about it. It's not really, you can put out there what you like, but you also have to think, if I go in this restaurant, is this something that I'm gonna want? Am I really gonna eat that? Do I really like that? You have to factor it in, but you have to go off of what your target customer is gonna do. Or you're not.
No, I think you're totally right, Trevisia. And it's, look, in these times, and for Black folks in general, throwing out COVID or hurricanes or whatever else we're dealing with in this world, it is a challenge for us to open restaurants, to find the capital, especially to open restaurants. So you have to be very diligent up front to remove as much risk as possible out of your business plan. So you identify a space, you have the capital. As you're thinking about what that brand is, you have to spend some time. Okay, I'm building a restaurant, or I'm opening a restaurant, or leasing this space here. Okay, what does that area look like around there? What is the demographic makeup? Is it, I'm here in South Florida and some parts of Broward County, is it 75% Caribbean? Okay, would you open a German restaurant there? Probably not, even though you might love German food. So you got to be smart about this, you know? And like I said, people get, in the earlier discussion, people get emotionally attached to menu items. And I tell people, I've been in this game for 20 years on the corporate side, and I have friends that tell, oh, you should open a restaurant. I was like, hell no, I'm not open. I know how difficult that is. I know how challenging it is. I don't have that passion to be an operator. I'm a strategic guy. I'm a marketing guy. But like I said, especially in these times where capital is limited, you got to spend the time up front, understand the market that you're working with, understand who you're going to be targeting, and understand. And there's so many simple tools available to you now that are inexpensive to reach out to people and survey them and ask questions, and try to understand and build a profile of what they want. Now, where it gets challenging is, so you get this restaurant and you say macaroni and cheese, then you get into sort of these variances. Okay, what does macaroni and cheese mean to different people? Or what does barbecue mean to different people? And then it's got to be a process. You know, you got to try things, and once again, not be emotionally attached. Okay, you know what? Maybe you make your macaroni and cheese with eggs, but your customers don't like it. You got to let that go. This is a business. You cannot be emotionally attached to some of this stuff.
Especially if someone wants mac and cheese, but they're vegan.
Yes, yes. Well, I don't like those people. We don't talk about that.
Me either, Derrick. Because you can
the vegans and the gluten-free people, but you just never know. You just never know.
Right.
I want to follow up, and I'm gonna come to you, Chef Mcintyre, in a moment. But I also want to follow up on the tools. I know I may have someone listening that says, "Well, I want to gauge my market, but what tools do I start out with? What would some of those tools look like?"
Well, are you talking about somebody who has an existing restaurant and relationship with guests, or somebody who wants to open a restaurant?
Let's start with the person that wants to open the restaurant first, and then we'll go to the person that has an existing business.
Yeah, so you can do surveys in the marketplace. I am assuming if you're looking at opening a restaurant in a specific trade area, you must have some relationship there. You're not, like, I live here in Florida. I'm not moving to Birmingham just going to open up a restaurant. I don't know that market. I would not do that. That's too risky. So I'm assuming you've got some type of relationship or connections within that specific trade area. So you've got friends that can, you know, what I'm saying is you could make a simple, Google form. And ask questions and distribute that. It doesn't cost you anything, and ask people to fill out a survey about what type of food would they want, what type of restaurant, what type of service. Are you looking for full service, QSR, fast casual? Maybe you put together a straw man of a menu, with 10 or 15 different items, including prices, and then ask people, is this something you would be interested in? The other thing is to survey what's going on competitively. Like I said before, there's certain areas of Broward County. I love Jamaican food that I would never open a Jamaican food. There's just some amazing Jamaican restaurants down there. But to understand the competitive dynamics of that particular trade area. So if you want to open up a barbecue stand, what are the barbecue restaurants in that area? Understand what their service style is, understand what their price point is, understand all those dynamics. Much easier, obviously, for your current customers because they're in your restaurant, to hand them something, a little simple coupon. Hey, go fill out this survey, get $1 off. If you've got an email list, to send them an email, or a text list, to send them a survey on a text. Or, use your social media channel. If you've got an engaged or a large Instagram or Facebook following, to send out a survey on that.
Yeah, I was gonna bounce on top of that. You really just gotta do the research. Researchers, you just talk to anyone really. Like Derrick said, know your area. I know there's an area up here in Birmingham where there's a lot of brewery. The beer scene is becoming a much bigger thing here in Birmingham. So I wouldn't go in that scene and open up a family restaurant. That would make no sense. Most of the clientele in that area are young, in college, and they're just trying to drink beer. So one restaurant they opened up a pizza restaurant, or a cookie dough restaurant, or something like that, a grilled cheese restaurant.
A cookie dough restaurant?
Yes, edible cookie dough is
a whole restaurant built around that.
The whole thing built around it.
I've heard about it. I want to try it.
Yes, I tried it. It's pretty good. And so you know the area. It's the Avondale area.
Yeah. So, when you started listing the different places, I was like, that's Avondale.
Yeah. You know exactly where it's at. Yeah. So but that's what that area is. It's where all the they have concert venues and stuff. So like I said, I wouldn't open a family restaurant there because my clientele wouldn't match up with it. My prices probably wouldn't match up to it. So that would be a restaurant that would not be successful at all. You have to know your people. As with the earlier question, you have to know your people, you have to know your clientele, you have to do your research. If you don't do your research up front, then you're going to be looking kind of crazy at the end.
And I ask these type of questions because they might seem simple, but a lot of times when I talk to businesses, both brick and mortar, sometimes even food trucks, because food trucks are not immune to this. A lot of times I'll see a food truck, they'll have an expansive menu and nobody's really biting. But also the location matters. Location is everything. It's not just for real estate. Location is for brick and mortars. Location is for food trucks. And a lot of times they go for the place that is available. It might be available, but that doesn't mean that is the most strategic place for you to be. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a space is open because it's not the best place for you to be.
Yep.
We see a lot of times people really want that brick and mortar, and I can get the sentiments and the feelings behind that, but the location matters. If the location is not matching up with your market, if your location is inconvenient, if your location is not going to even work with your equipment, like even logistics matter. So like really think about and do the research in terms of what is it that you actually need to be successful in that space. Is that a space that gets a lot of foot traffic? What type of foot traffic do you get? I would even go so far as say, what time is that going to happen? I know, for example, places like in Birmingham, like Avondale and Lakeview, they tend to pop at a certain time of the day or night. So if you're a food truck, you want to think about, can I get in on those timelines? And not only can I get in during that time, would they want my food at that time of day? All of that is essential. I want to circle back on something that you actually touched on earlier, Derrick, and that was on when to give a menu item the axe. So you started with, like, let's say, maybe you didn't have that big of a menu. Maybe it was like about, 10 items.
Yep.
And you look up and you had an item on there. Let's say it was a really bougie grilled cheese. And it was doing well at one moment, but now all of a sudden, maybe the demographics have changed. We see a lot of cities that are going through like gentrification. People are moving in, moving out all the time. So something that was really popular at one point with a demographic that was there may not longer be that case, or maybe because of COVID-19, the ingredients that you once used for a product has now skyrocketed and now it costs more. So at what point do you make the decision that I can raise the price and keep it and it'll be okay, or it's not enough, I can need to give it the axe? And
there's no simple answer to that. And it comes from both the art and science of what we term menu engineering. So let me give you a traditional methodology, at least a way of that the big boys look at it, is called a quadrant analysis. And some of you might have seen this before, where it's 4 different quadrants, and you plot every menu on that quadrant. On the x-axis is profitability. So how much are you making per item? And on the y-axis is how popular it is. So you break these things into quadrants. So that top right quadrant, those are items that are very popular and very profitable. You don't mess with those, okay? If you have a menu, or if you're a food truck and you've got a menu outside, and you're thinking, okay, do I put pictures on? Those are the items you put pictures on, okay? Because they're very profitable and people love them, and they crave those items. In that bottom left quadrant are the items that we call the dogs. They're not very popular and they cost you a hell of a lot. You need to get rid of those, okay? We call those the dogs. And then you move up in that sort of, I guess that's the northwest quadrant. The term they use, I don't know where it came from, is plow horses. And those are items that are very profitable, but people don't order them. So they do well for you, okay? So those are items that you might want to use, some menu engineering tactics, like adding a picture or highlighting, or In a traditional menu, there's what we call these power positions within a category, either the top of a category or the bottom of a category. Make sure you put those items there. Once again, they're very profitable. And then the bottom quadrant are the puzzles. You don't understand them. Once again, they're very profitable, but people don't order them. So that's maybe something you need to look at as you discuss re-engineering. So I can't give you an answer to say any specific item. It's really a process you have to go through because it all works together. I mean, you all works together from the analysis to even on a food truck, how you display items on the menu, where they're displayed. So I wish I could give you an answer for but every case is different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of mention what Derrick was saying, the menu matrix. That's the kind of go-to for everybody, and it's really interesting because when you look at like your plow horses, for example, you know, those are how I see them as those are the things that kind of get people in the door. They're not going to make you money, but you're gonna get somebody. You know, one example would be like, you know, say you go to a seafood restaurant. You know, my dad doesn't eat seafood, but they have a steak on the menu. So that way, when he comes in, he's going to order. See, that's so you get some seafood. It's good for you. So for him, he would go for the steak. For the restaurant, they're not going to make a lot of money off of it, but it's still going to give somebody that doesn't eat seafood an option.
Yes. Yep.
It's going to give them that option, and that's what you kind of drive for. But of course, you want to get those stars. Those are your things, of course, like Derrick said. They make money. People love them. You want more of those. Get as many of those as possible. For one example in the restaurant world would be omelets or pasta dishes. You know, something from our side where, you know, eggs are extremely cheap. Flour is really cheap when you're making pasta. And I can sell it for a good amount, for a good price, and kind of know I'm going to make my money back. And that's going to kind of drive forward. So as far as knowing when to cut something from the menu, you know when something's not popular. You know it just sits there. The prep is sitting in the fridge. It's going bad, and you really just have to have that talk with yourself, especially have that emotional connection to it, and say, look, I gotta get rid of it. And if you are so attached to it, run it as a special, so you can kind of be happy with it, but you got to get it off the menu because it's costing you money. And the beauty of running specials is, I could only have 10 of them. I'll have my 10. And once I sell those 10, that's it. I made my money. So I don't have to worry about losing money. And when you create that special, you're creating to the consumer, oh man, this is something exclusive. I got to get it tonight. I got to come in tonight. I got to get this because it's not going to be around, especially when you have a special that's super popular and everybody loves it all the time. I worked at a restaurant where redfish was extremely popular, but we didn't keep it on our menu. We simply kept it as a special. So that way we knew if we kind of looked at the numbers and our reservations were low, okay, let's put this redfish on as our special. Draws in all these people. So a night that would have probably been a really slow night turns into a really profitable night.
I'm now rethinking everybody's menu because almost every place you can go to has chicken tenders on their menu.
You do it for the kids because chicken tenders
that's for kids. Well, and some adults who like
some adults. but when you have the safe options, so that way everybody has that one friend. They don't eat this, they don't eat that, they don't eat this. Well, here, have some chicken tenders, have a burger, have something like that.
Have a salad.
Have something for that person, because what you don't want to do in your restaurant is exclude your clientele. You don't want to have somebody in and say they're, vegan, vegetarian, and you have absolutely nothing that's vegan, vegetarian. You got to figure something out. So they
don't get to your restaurant if you don't have that.
Exactly. They won't.
We call it the veto vote. So you're sitting around trying to figure out where to go, and I don't want to go there. I'm a pescatarian. They don't have any seafood, so you got to have one or two, seafood item. And it's in that category. I've seen restaurants in the past. It's something frozen, It's fish and chips. It's frozen, so you don't have to worry. They're not carrying or a simple salmon that they thaw 2 or 3 a day. But it addresses that seafood need for that. It's really about the party. Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not about the individual. It's about satisfying the needs of that one individual in the party that has that special need.
Exactly. A lot of times we'll have the vegetarian and say, oh, we got to do something. Well, throw some vegetables together, call it a stir fry.
Yeah.
You know, have it ready.
So, VC, on the baking side, how have you seen that? Have you ever made a cut and said, you know what, I'm no longer putting this on my menu?
Not really, because typically VC knew from the beginning to keep it small because it's just you. And I know in Mobile that we got to go Southern because they want Southern desserts. And it was just, my passion is Southern desserts, what I got from my grandmother, my mom, my aunts. So I stuck with that. Now I tell you this, my mama is my best worst critic. So if Evelyn tries something and she say that ain't gonna work, we scratch it. You tell you from the beginning, that ain't gonna work, baby. So we don't do it. But typically everything that I've done has done pretty well. And it's because, again, do your research. You know, you South, stick with the Southern stuff. A pound cake, a peach cobbler. Now, we'll tell you, it's a trick. You got to know when that stuff is going to sell. Not every 12 months out of the year, a peach cobbler not going to sell 12 months. Red velvet cake ain't going to sell 12 months. You got to know, it's a trick to it. Christmas, Thanksgiving, you can get all of that to sell. But in May, they ain't looking for no red velvet cake in May, for real. Peach cobbler will sell in May. A peach cobbler will sell in July because backyard barbecues, let's be clear. Rona need to go on about her daggone business because she messing up stuff right now. So nobody's coming to visit for peach cobbler right now. But then again, we closed too because I don't want Rona from y'all. But it is definitely hard to say, okay, well, I know I got to just jump out here and do it, but you got to think about what's really going to sell at what time too. Because
I'm glad you said the time, because I'm thinking about a couple of food trucks that actually have a winter and a summer menu. So not a lot of food trucks, depending on where you are, there are some food trucks that run year round. But now that I've lived in the Midwest, I'm so used to food trucks that are in Alabama. Some go year round, some, depending upon what they have, obviously they don't run year round. But here in the Midwest, we have many food trucks that literally operate by season. They usually come out in March. They're gone by late October, usually by the first week of November. And I've seen a couple of food trucks actually change what their menu was. So, for example, I remember a food truck, they did a lot of cold menu options like ices and slushies and whatnot. And then the wintertime came, they switched to chilies and soups. They switched straight to that, and it went successful for them. Or I've seen some, they go from ices and slushies and smoothies, and then all of a sudden they start doing all these different hot teas with different flavors, because they understand in the Midwest, we get extremely cold. Like I'm talking wind chill of -51 cold. So they understand that for this market at this particular time, this is what pairs best with the clientele. So I'm glad that you brought that out. And now that we're talking about like timing and knowing what your customer needs are, I think now's a great time to shift and spend the rest of the time that we have about online delivery. So now this is where everybody is talking about now. People who weren't doing delivery, now they're thinking about it. Actually, I'm going to start with you, VC. I remember we had a conversation about online, and at first you weren't doing online, and now you've gotten it down packed. So how has that been?
We are discussing it. Living in Alabama. Yeah, Alabama want all their money by any means necessary, honey. And I'm sick of Alabama in my pocket. So we got to figure out how to get around a couple of loopholes with Alabama and shipping. But COVID has definitely taught us that, okay, so now you closed. What you gonna do by making money? And let's be clear, online everything is the way to go. So we got to figure out what we're going to do about shipping and how we're going to get these products to people in Florida, people in Birmingham, without me having to physically get to them. So we're working on it. The shipping has to happen in order for me to make some money. But it's a process. It's not easy because I'm shipping a product that has to be stable in the climate. And then what if this product gets stuck in a warehouse for so many days, a week or so? So you have to have it packed a certain way. You have to make sure that this stuff is stable, i.e. your buttercream has to be stable to sit in this heat.
Facts.
So it's not to it. It ain't just just throw it in a jar and go. Mm-mm. So we still working on the kinks, but it's something that we have to do in order to let them eat cake, or else that ain't what we want.
So Stephen, have you gone through that? I know on the instructor side, have you talked about that at all?
Well, actually, yes, we are in plans to do a lot of education about it right now. What COVID has really done, it has shaken up the restaurant industry as well as the food truck industry as a whole. It's making people realize things that they didn't think they would need are becoming extremely important. For example, with the online ordering, I know places that were not even thinking about it. Like, why would I do online? But now the fact of people want it, and now things are being developed for zero contact. When we talk about, virtual restaurants, for example, people are not even going to storefronts anymore. They just want to come and pick up their food. We're preparing our students now to be in that industry where the food prep boom kind of happened a while ago. It's coming back in a new form as these virtual restaurants and these online orderings. And that's what people want. And that's going to be a wave that people are looking for going forward. The restaurant that we know as of before is not the same. It's not going to come back. It's evolving into this new creation because of online.
And I know a lot of people had these conversations, whether they're called like ghost kitchens or dark kitchens or cloud kitchens as the brand name. And I've seen a lot of food trucks themselves actually are either moving towards that model or they've already have adapted that model. So it's definitely something that last time I checked when we did the webinar a couple of weeks ago, they said it's picked up quite a bit in Atlanta and a few other cities have really started to adopt that model.
Yeah, I know people use those terms interchangeably. So
break that down.
Yeah. So and a ghost kitchen and a cloud kitchen are about the same thing, and that's typically it is a delivery only facility. So it's a kitchen, usually in a low cost area, but a high density of people in that area who will order delivery. So it's not on a main thoroughfare. It's in like a warehouse district. And they literally build out a kitchen and all they do is serve food. So that's sort of a ghost or cloud kitchen. There's actually a company down here in South Florida. It's called Reef, REEF. They build little kitchens and they're almost like trailers. And they park them in parking lots and they run a restaurant out of there. That's only online. What's really cool is, and I want to talk about this, is virtual kitchens. So a virtual kitchen is an existing restaurant that opens up another restaurant or another brand that only exists on the delivery apps. So I'll give you a couple examples. I found one up in Philadelphia. It's got 6 restaurants that it runs out of one restaurant. So it's a pizza shop, but it also runs a chicken wing restaurant on the apps. It runs a grilled cheese restaurant on the apps. So, and the big boys are getting this now. So here in South Florida, Hooters runs a virtual restaurant that's called Burger Bar. And it's just them serving their burgers under a different name. It comes out of a Hooters. Chili's just announced a couple of weeks ago, they're launching one. I can't think of the name of it. All it does is serve chicken wings. Okay. and it's served right out of a Chili's. It shows up in the app. It doesn't show Chili's. It's whatever that name is. And what I've been encouraging a lot of the people that I talk to, any restaurant can create this. If you think about your menu and you survey what's around in your area, and let's say you're a bar and grill, but you've got really good wing product. It's not that hard. You just need to come up with 4 or 5 or 6 more sauces for wings. You fill out the menu with some other items that you currently have on the menu, and you call the DoorDash, the Uber Eats, and the Seamless of the world and say, hey, I'm opening another restaurant. You got to come up with a name for it. You got to come up with a logo. And one of the key things to think about is when you think about the name, always include the food item in the name, because the Uber Eats, they have algorithms just like Google. Okay. So the way you find a product is you're searching for it and you say, oh, I'm interested in chicken wings, or you're searching specifically for chicken wings. So if it's Paul's Chicken Wings is the name of your virtual restaurant, it's going to show up higher in the algorithm. So, and that's one of the ways. Look, these guys, these third-party delivery guys, they're evil in some instances. I mean, they charge crazy fees. Service can be inconsistent. But there's some good things about it. It's in most cases, at least my experience has been, it's a slightly higher check than you get in restaurant. It is incremental. I will fight people to say in 75% of the cases, these are people who are not coming in your restaurant. These are not people who normally come to your restaurant that are ordering the app. These are people who only discover you because you're on the app. And there's some ways to get around the fees. There's some things you can do, from pricing, in terms of how you put menus, make sure you're including enough add-ons, and maybe creating. So there's ways to get those fees down so they're more manageable than they are right now.
And I think that actually transitioned us into the final question I have before we open it up for Q&A. And we talked about pricing.
Yep.
And for many restaurateurs, many chefs, many food truck owners, sometimes they hesitate to raise a price. Because if I raise a price, nobody is going to buy my product anymore. Like if I go from $5 to $6.50, someone's not gonna buy it. I'm gonna lose customers. That there's a fear around that.
Yep.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about price. Not only price when we're building a price. A lot of people sometimes they only factor in like the unit cost, and they're not actually factoring in the value that they actually put into the product. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about pricing. Let's have some conversations on that.
So I'll say to your first point about people being afraid of raising the prices, especially in a time like this, people know restaurants are hurting. There's a restaurant that we went to. It's a pho restaurant, and we love going there. Every time we go there, the food is delicious, it's hot, fresh, all that good stuff. And they had to raise their prices. And me as a consumer, because I know that restaurant and I know their quality, I'm totally okay with paying more for their product. A lot of people are afraid to raise their product because they don't think people will pay for it. Well, if you have your loyal clientele, they'll pay for it. As long as you don't go out of the way as far as your pricing, they'll still pay for it. I think our pho went up like $2 or $3, but and on top of that, they're going to pay for it because they know it's good, but they're going to pay for it because they know they're supporting a business that needs it, especially in a time like this.
Number one rule in baking that I've learned: don't announce that you're raising your prices. You're going to scare everybody off. You're going to run them away. If I put out there that I'm raising my prices, the potential customer that thought about coming to me, that saw that I was raising my price, they're running. And they're going to go next door to the person that has the same thing for $25 because I just said that I was raising my price. If, like he said, if they want it, they're going to pay for it. It doesn't matter how much it is. But if I tell you that I'm raising the price, it scares you off. You're going to run because now your fear is, well, how much more I got to pay? But if you just tell them, oh, well, this cake is going to cost you $47.50, they're not going to say, well, 6 months ago, how much did that cake cost? They ain't thinking like that. Just put the price out there and tell them this is how much it's going to cost. And right about now, anybody that has any knowledge, if you grocery shopping, you know that 4 months ago, it was hard to find eggs. It was hard to find oil, all of that stuff. It was a shortage on it, and baby, the price went up on it. So if you thinking that you're going to go and get a cake and the price has not raised, something wrong with you, because the prices went up in the grocery store. So the prices had to go up for that bakery because they got to get their money back. They just not going to tell you if they got any sense. They're not going to tell you that they up their prices, because I ain't going to tell you that I up my prices if I had to up them, because then you're not going to come to me. It'll run you off, because Walmart telling y'all they changed the prices.
No,
or is Walmart just putting that rollback sign up there for you?
No, I was one of the lucky ones that found some Lysol spray, and I know that Lysol spray is normally $3.97, and when I swiped it, they said $5.97. Mm-hmm. I got mad, but I still kept bagging it into my cart because I needed it.
Yeah, but pricing is like the menu engineering. It's a challenge. So once again, starting off, you really need to understand your P&L, okay, and what all your other costs are besides your food costs, to know where you need to be. If you don't understand that, you really can't create a pricing strategy. And the inputs are obviously the cost of the food, but you really need to know where your competitors are. And I'll keep coming back to that. Either if you're in a food truck environment and you're parking near, or you tend to travel more, or you're in a bricks and mortar, understand where your competitors are and what are the competitive points of parity, what disadvantages or advantages you have. So for instance, if you're selling barbecue and there's another barbecue restaurant down the street and they're just taking baby back ribs and throwing them in the oven, slapping some barbecue sauce, but no, you're smoking yours for 5 hours over real hickory wood, you should be able to charge a premium for that relative to that competitor. And the other thing, it comes back to, just thinking strategically how you engineer the items. I'll give you a perfect example. I was working with somebody and they had tacos, and they had a chicken taco, they had a steak taco, and they had a pork taco. And the raw ingredient cost for the pork was less expensive than the chicken. Mm-hmm. And so he built his menu based upon, I was like, no, you got to build it from what the customer perceives the value to be. Okay. So chicken in the consumer's mind is on the bottom, and then pork, and then beef, and then seafood. I don't care what they cost. You got to price it based upon how the consumer perceives the value. And that gets back into the minutia of menu engineering. But yeah, I, like everybody said, in these times, you can't be afraid to take pricing, because we're trying to stay in business. We're trying to survive and feed our families and pay the Disney bill so we can watch Beyonce. So you gotta keep you gotta stay in business, if you will.
Steven, you have anything you wanted to add to that? I am gonna watch Beyonce later on too.
I'm about to say that's my plan for later on to do, but definitely, I mean, and like Derrick was saying, it goes back to engineering your menu. When you look at your menu price, ideally, that should not be just your food costs plus some other numbers. You got to include your rent, your utilities. You got to include your labor. You got to include all these things, and it's a puzzle. You have to sit down and work the numbers. And it's really funny we're talking about this, because for school right now, I'm actually doing like a simulation of a restaurant, trying to save a restaurant. And they're doing all these different things, and people are so worried about, raising prices. Well, one strategy that we use is go ahead and raise that price up that extra quarter. Raise it up a little bit. Your consumer will let you know, hey, this is too much. And once they start telling you this is too much, okay, let's back off a little bit. But you can push it up quite a little bit before they kind of really take that. As long as your quality is still up there as well. You can't raise the price and then drop quality. That will never work out.
I want to be cognizant of time, so I'm gonna allow a few extra minutes, but I wanted to let everybody in the chat box know that if you have questions, please, 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 ask, because we have a lot of expertise on the panel today. So by all means, drop your questions. But until some come in, I do want to have some space to ask you all, what is everybody working on? I'm nosy, so I want to know what folks got going on. So Derrick, I'm gonna start with you.
Oh, so I'm working on Soul Foodie. We're just sending out all the posts and letting people know and engaging with people, trying to have some fun and, at the same time, inform and educate folks. We actually launched a store last week where we're selling apparel and some other things. I'm really excited about that thing. I'm working on some really cool items with some designers, so you can be able to see that in the next few months. But I think what's most germane to this group, I'm actually working on a course and it's tentatively called, helping restaurants navigate this coronavirus era from a marketing standpoint. So, we're going to talk about what menu strategies to use. We're going to talk about the third-party delivery, how to mitigate some of those excessive fees that they talk about how to create a virtual restaurant, what you need to be doing from your website, how to work on local SEO. A lot of restaurants don't think about that, and that's very important to helping them get recognized and noticed in the digital footprint. And it's not that hard to do. You don't need to hire somebody to work on a local SEO. So we actually have a link on Soul Foodie. So if you go to Soul Foodie, and that's spelled PHOODIE, there's a link called Restaurant Courses. And if anybody's interested, you can put your email address in there, and we'll let you know when we launch that in the next couple of weeks.
I can't wait. VC, how's everything going in pastry land? Because I want my pound cakes and red velvet. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. We are revamping, new logo, working on website, that kind of stuff. My favorite line right now is, God stopped the world to stop me to catch up. Because working a full-time job and running a business was a lot. So when you ask God for something, be careful, because it's coming. And I kept begging God to give me some more time, and I got it. Got a lot of time. So the time that he's given me, I am definitely utilizing it to the fullest. So we are revamping, so we can get some things going. So shipping is on the to-do list. So we're working on that, so we can get the pound cake and the red velvet cake over there to you. That's it. Just rebranding, revamping to get some things going and getting this paperwork, some stuff, so we can trademark and register some things that needed to be done. But
Yes. I think we're gonna have a conversation about intellectual property. That might be another webinar that we do next. So absolutely. So thank you. I'm this much closer now to getting me some more pound cake from you.
You are. Go ahead and get you you see Darius Cook's got them pound cakes rolling. Go ahead and get one of them.
I've been baking my own. I did a peach cobbler pound cake actually back in March. So I couldn't have yours, so I had to start baking my own, girl. So that's where we're at.
I'm trying to find out how that did we do the strawberry champagne?
I did not do that yet. We'll talk more about it. We're going to talk about that journey. Chef Steven, what's going on with you? You out here teaching, you're baking, you're studying.
Oh yeah, I am a lot of school stuff. Finishing up with Johnson & Wales, and then planning to do some more stuff with them soon. But before all this, I was actually teaching at a store, and that kind of came to an end. So what my next big project is, I'm going to be doing, because I think you've seen some of my Facebook Lives on my personal Facebook. I'm kind of expanding that out to another platform on Facebook. So we're going to do some more lives. And what I'm in the early processes of doing is actually it's a set of courses teaching basic culinary principles, just teaching basic cooking really, because I've in my experience with teaching before, I've learned that a lot of people don't know how to cook, which is okay. That's what I'm here for. So, you know, and I'm looking to do things super, super basic, like, you know, just simple seasonings, just, you know, using salt, knowing how much salt, stuff that to people in our profession is second nature, but for some people it's a totally, I mean, you could just it's speaking a whole different language. So, I got you. We are. I will, as soon as those courses are ready, as soon as that platform is ready, I will definitely let you know. So come on in, and it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And I have some other projects, but I can't really talk about those yet. But when you see them, you say.
We got one question, and I do want to take the remaining time to ask on that, and it's actually coming from Facebook. It says, are restaurants looking for virtual suppliers like farmers outside of their cities or state limits?
Yeah, that's a challenge depending on what the commodity is and the volume that that particular restaurant would use that. So, as like I said, as I see restaurants condensing their menus, I'm sure there's some opportunity, but like I said, it depends on what commodity it is and relative to the volume that that particular restaurant uses that commodity.
Absolutely. So I just want to say with that, I haven't seen any more other questions come in. I think we covered just about everything. I've just seen a lot of comments of everybody just saying thank you for the information. And I want to say that as well. I also want to plug in my partner, Eat Okra, the app. So if you're looking to find Black-owned restaurants and food trucks, please download the app. They have been doing amazing work. They've been putting in 3 years of hard work in building this app, and it has really taken off very well. They also have a capital campaign. So please make sure you support them so they can take that platform to a greater level. And of course, I have to support, plug the Food Truck Scholar podcast. It just came in that we are, for the second year, we are the #1 food truck podcast. So we did that in 2019. We're back again as the #1 food truck podcast of 2020. I'm very excited about that. We're on season 2 right now. If you haven't listened to my recent podcast with Oops Creamery in Detroit, Michigan, you need to do so. I'm very excited about what 2020 is going to do. So you're going to be looking forward to some more webinar content. If you enjoyed this, by all means, there's going to be a survey that will pop up right after this. Please take that survey. If you have questions, shoot me an email. I definitely want your feedback on what we need to do better and what we want to continue doing. So I really want to say thank you to everybody. And I know we're right on time, and I want to respect everybody's time. So thank you so much. Please make sure that you support Soul Foodie, Chef Stephen Mcintyre, and Trevisa AG of Let Them Eat Cake. And until next time, on August 15th, we'll be covering lessons you need to know in your first year of food trucking. So be on the lookout for that. And until next time, enjoy, everybody. Happy Saturday. Thanks, y'all.